On to our next panel. Now I'd like to introduce Dave Beard, Sandy McCracken, Steve Pangier, Kenny Strope, and Daniel Walker for a segment on safer, faster, stronger metal buildings. Now we welcome Dave Beard as the moderator. He's the president of the Ironworkers District Council of St. Louis and vicinity to address the metal building market. Dave started his career as an ironworker in 1979 and graduated from Ironworkers Local 392 East St. Louis apprenticeship program. He worked in the field for 25 years, various capacities from foreman, general foreman, superintendent. He has served as a trustee, executive board member, recording secretary, vice president, business manager, and financial secretary for Local 392. He is a delegate to the Southwest Illinois Building Trades and co-chair of the Ironworkers St. Louis Health and Welfare Pension Funds. Dave is joined by these experts in the metal building industry, and I can tell you when I was General Secretary, President Wise wanted someone to head up metal buildings and help grow and drive that market share, and Dave has done just that. I knew from being in the Chicago District Council, Dave's expertise on the subject matter from his local, where they enjoyed a better than average market share of most of the surrounding locals. So he does a great job, and I'm going to turn it over to Dave, and you can have a conversation with the rest of your panels. Thank you.
Thank you, President Dean. Really 3 years ago, it started, almost 4, I guess. President Weiss asked me to get involved in the metal building market and see what we can't do. That, you know, there's obviously this huge market out there, and we just have a very small part of it. And President Dean has followed up with that, saying, you know, it's probably our largest growth opportunity, metal buildings. You know, what do we got to do to get involved? We're very lucky that the people in the metal building industry realize that the better trained the workers are, the more competent the contractors are, that it actually helps their industry. So again, we have some great professionals here. I'll start introducing the panel. Dan Walker. Dan, to my right here, Dan's the Assistant General Manager of the Metal Building Manufacturers Association. Prior to becoming the General Manager, for 15 years, Dan was the Senior Staff Engineer, where he developed programs in their areas of energy, fire, structural performance for metal building systems. On the end, I have Ken Strope. Ken has been in the construction industry since 1979. He's been with Blue Scope Construction since 1988. He's currently the Senior Vice President of Construction and Engineering for Blue Scope Construction and is directly responsible for structural engineering, detailing, and project management. Kenny is also a lead developer in their safety program. And for those of you that don't know the name Blue Scope owns Butler Manufacturing and Varco Pruden, which is, if not the 2 biggest metal building manufacturers, they're right there. Next to Kenny is Steve Pangier. Steve's president and CEO of Pangier Corporation. Pangier Corporation was founded in 1905. Steve's the 3rd generation of leadership. Pangier is an industrial and commercial contractor based out of Gary, Indiana. They erect metal buildings as well as conventional steel. And just as a side note, Pangier was awarded Impact's first Project of the Year award in 2014. So we appreciate that. Sandy McCracken. Sandy's a programs manager at the International Accreditation Services and is currently managing 5 accreditations program. She was working in the structural steel industry for over 35 years, and she was very instrumental in developing the new metal building systems, assemblers accreditation, AC 478. And AC 478 is, they accredit metal building erectors like the structural steel contractor certification. So I want to get started with Dan Walker. And Dan, can you kind of give us an overview of just how big this industry is?
Sure. How do I work?
Green button.
Green button. Okay, great. Thank you, Dave. And again, I want to thank everybody for inviting us to come to the conference. This is my 3rd year coming to this conference, and every single year it gets better. So thank you very much for the opportunity to present to you today and talk about this opportunity in the metal building market. This
There you go.
the big one, okay. So the metal building industry is comprised of about 43 fabricators. They are the manufacturers of metal building systems. They're located throughout the United States. I've got a list of them here. I'm not going to go through each one of them, but you may recognize ones you've worked with before. But we've also got a very rich group of supplier members that really help to make the metal building industry great. And these companies provide materials that make the metal building system a complete project. And they make these systems very competitive against traditional or conventional forms of construction. And these are really a supportive role for you as an erector when you're installing these types of projects or you're working on these types of buildings, that you've got the materials you need that are specific to these systems that make them a success. I'll talk about the size of the market because Dave asked me to come in today and try to excite you all about how big of a market this is. And so I can talk about tonnage, I can talk about market share. I'll look at the graph that's in front of you now, and you can see that at the peak back in 2007, we had about 1.5 million tons of steel moved in our industry, and of course everybody fell off in 2008 and we experienced a downturn. But we've had slow and steady growth since that time, and up to 2016, about 1.1 million tons, and in 2017 approaching 1.2 million tons of steel moved. So we're talking about a growing and vibrant market that's making a good comeback. Dave also asked me to come up with a way to try to show you where these projects are. And we do collect that information at MBMA. We do a county-by-county shipment report. And so what you're seeing on the screen now is a map of the United States that's got all the different metal building projects aggregated in that map and then coded by color to show you where the most popular counties are. And so the red ones are the highest, where the most metal building projects have been shipped. And then the orange and the yellow and the green follow from there. But I think what you can see is that it doesn't really matter what part of the country you're in. There's a metal building project going up, and it's an opportunity for you to get involved. And you know, any individual project doesn't sound like a lot, but we're doing 28,000 building projects a year in our industry, and all of these projects are opportunities for ironworkers to get involved because we need your skill set. We need your highly skilled workers to come and put these buildings up in a professional manner. It makes our industry more successful. And I'll talk a little bit about where the buildings go. So what types of buildings are we doing? Are we talking about just sheds? Are we talking about agricultural buildings? No. Metal buildings are no longer lapped metal panel-sided buildings, and that's the only option you've got. We do buildings in every single segment of the marketplace, from schools to, of course, warehouses and agriculture. Those are traditional markets, but we're also doing healthcare and government buildings and retail buildings and office buildings. You're familiar with some of these from the outside, but you might not know that in the inside of these structures is the core of a metal building system. So about 43% we're tracking of our projects are going into the commercial market, and that is the retail, office, warehouse market. These are complex structures, sometimes very large structures, and we need your particular set of skills to help erect these buildings in a safe manner. And so there's a giant opportunity for ironworkers to work on these projects. And I'll just show a couple of pictures because pictures, you know, they're worth 1,000 words. And so this is a building here that's got some traditional metal building components that you might recognize, but also some things that you would find in conventional buildings. There are insulated metal panels on this. There are metal composite panels. There's a lot of storefront glazing. These are materials that are routinely being integrated into metal buildings every day. These are not the metal building system of the past. These are the metal buildings of the future. These are hybrid conventional buildings at this point. And so there's no reason that an ironworker can't work on a project like this. Another example of a building. It doesn't really matter where you are. These are lightweight buildings, but they're strong and they're durable. These buildings are designed, custom engineered. Every single job is custom engineered by the manufacturer's engineer. A project engineer takes control of that project when it goes in the field, and then it's put up with the skilled hands of an erector. But these jobs and these projects are all resilient buildings. They all meet the building codes. They can be put up in any part of the United States, whether you're in Florida, Hawaii, Alaska, or in the Great Lakes region. And then just another picture to show you the interiors. These can be very, very large structures with spans over 200 feet and growing. And so the different types of structural systems that go in, these aren't all just going to be tapered beams and cold form purlins or Cs. A lot of times they're going up with truss joist type systems or long span joist systems. And again, you all have the skills to do these types of projects and should be taking advantage of this opportunity in the market. And I'm so glad that David invited us here to talk about it in front of all of you today. So this is the last slide that I have, but I just wanted to show you again, you would never guess looking at the outside of this building that you're looking at a metal building system, because 25 years ago, this wouldn't have been done the way that it's being done today. These are hybridized buildings. They're steel buildings just like any other building that you would erect today, and I would just implore you to take advantage of this opportunity and the training that Impact is making available. Listen to the skills and the tools that IAS is going to present to you today, and just open your minds to the possibility, and you'll see what you can get.
Thank you. Thank you, Dan. So I want to go back to Dan's map. You can plainly see that there's really no blank spots in this map all across the country. So 2 years ago, when Eric really asked me to get involved, I said, there's no way I can do this without knowing where our contractors were. We're coming up with international metal building agreements, district council metal building agreements. Impact is offering all types of training. I have to know where the contractors are. So I started contacting every business manager and district council president in the United States and Canada and saying, give me a list of your people that do metal buildings. I don't care if it's only exclusively metal buildings. If they put up metal buildings, I want their name. Myself or somebody in my office contacted every one of them, and here's a map. There's 250 dots on there. It's hard to see. Some of them are grouped up. That's a map of where our contractors are. Here's a map of where all the work is. Here's a map of where our contractors are. We have, you can just look at that and say there's just tremendous growth opportunity. And that doesn't mean that, look at Oklahoma. There's no dots in Oklahoma. I know a contractor from southern Missouri and another one from southern Illinois just went and put a building up in Oklahoma. We work in Oklahoma. I'm not saying we don't, but what I am saying is nobody's going to travel for every building. We need a local contractor in Oklahoma. We need multiple local contractors in Oklahoma. Are our people to travel more? So I got to ask Steve. Steve, you put up metal buildings, you put up conventional steel. For you to go outside of your home base, your safe area, I'll say, what do the locals really need to do to encourage you to come there and work with them?
Well, I think there's three things that need to happen. Number one is portability. You're not going to find too many journey workers that can erect metal buildings, pre-engineered metal buildings. We're a conventional building company as well. And it's very difficult to take our guys that do conventional buildings and put them on a pre-engineered metal building. We've cross-trained over the years, but it's taken time. The same with putting on a standing seam roof and architectural panels. We have sheeters. We work in the steel industry. To take our sheeters and put them on a pre-engineered metal building, I'm going to tell you, is a problem. It took a while for some of those guys to learn the system. But portability, we want to be able to take our guys and go into a different area, work with your local. I know sometimes it's 50-50. That's not going to work. Our guys, we have a special crew or a couple of crews, about 10, 12 guys. This is all they do. But maybe taking a couple of the guys that are in your local and teaching them, mentoring them. You're not going to get it in school. You can teach somebody metal building erection in your classes in your apprenticeship program. We used to have a sheeting course in our apprenticeship program, but until they get their hands on it, it's not going to work. So we need your help there. And I think we could work out some kind of a training program, a mentoring program throughout the country if we get started on the right foot. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Now, Kenny Strope from BlueScope, when I talked to him about coming, he sent me a couple slides and he sent this one first. And as we were talking, he said, why would a good steel erector give up a chance to set 10,000 tons of steel because it has a standing seam roof on it? I mean, how true is that statement? We have training facilities all across the country. We can enhance our metal building training, and hopefully we can get a bunch of these steel erectors to start doing jobs like this. Now I'd like to ask Kenny, what do you see happening in the industry, Kenny?
Well, if you look at this building is actually technically a metal building. I mean, it's made of a lot of heavy steel with conventional steel underneath it. And basically, that building, when you go above the crane beam, you plop the metal building on top of it. So on top of that, you got 3-plate Zs and you got Cs on the walls, and it's a standing seam roof with rib panels on the outside of it. So there's a tremendous amount, like Dan talked about, a normal pre-engineered metal building that you see out there. There's a tremendous amount of these in the industrial market that are out there that are metal buildings with a lot of heavy steel in it, and a lot of different, with cranes and crane loads and everything that goes in them as well. And then, of course, with trying to erect those kind of buildings, there's a lot of requirements that we're seeing out there in the marketplace now for, for just the companies and the requirements that a company's got to make. There's a lot of metrics out there for safety and safety programs that companies are having, and what companies need to do to enable to be able to qualify, to be able to even bid on jobs and get on them. A lot of them with the metrics, the DART and the MTIs and the LTIs and all the things that are, the OSHA training requirement. But it's also down now to where the worker qualifications and experience is being sought for qualifications on jobs. Because the workers now, most every job requires 10-hour, 30-hour for leadership, for everybody that's out there. Now you got to have equipment, operator license, and certificates. Most of them requiring that you have some certificate that says you can erect a metal building, and mainly erect a metal building is the skins on it, to be able to it. And a lot of buildings now have the insulated metal panels on them, to be able to show the experience that you have on those. The rigor certificates. And as we know, with the labor force that's out there, to have a experienced labor force that's able to do this is critical. Because we've seen earlier, they're trying to come up with, faster ways to be able to do it, and of course to do it safer and faster as we do it.
Appreciate that. So then I want to introduce Sandy and talk about the AC 478. But the AC 478 started in 2013 is when you started working on it. The Metal Building Constructors and Erectors Association, the MBCEA, they realized that, for them to pick the industry up and to come up with this accreditation, it's going to help everybody. Just like Dan was talking and Kenny was talking, they're good quality contractors raise the entire industry. So Sandy is very instrumental. She actually heads the AC 478, and she wanted to explain AC 478. She had an award for Steve.
Yes. AC 478 was crafted by a 10-member person technical committee and also an 8-person review committee. So it took over a year and a half to craft the standard. So we had representatives from all walks of iron workers and metal building systems on that committee.
There you go.
IAS is a fully owned subsidiary of the International Code Council. All our accreditation criteria is voted on during an open public hearing process. And on behalf of IAS and International Code Council, I'd like to give an award to the Pangier Corporation. The Pangier Corporation has been in the business for about 110 years. They have a metal building systems division as well as a conventional structure division and an industrial division. So Steve Pangier and the Pangier Corporation has met the requirements of the IAS AC 478 program. So I wanted to congratulate Steve.
The Pangier Corporation is the first ironworker signatory contractor to have received the AC 478, and that's why we asked Steve to come here and receive that award today. Steve went out on his own. He wanted this. He wanted to make his company better. And Steve, can you tell us a few words of what you think this AC 478's done for your company?
Well, first, can I just say, Sandy, thank you very much. Sandy was very instrumental. She was tough and with the whole system, but very, very helpful. And Sandy was just as excited as I was about the first union contractor to receive this award. Sandy, you deserve an applause. Thank you. Real quick, I want to thank Dave Beard as well. And I think Jackie, I know Jackie with MBCEA was very helpful as well.
Jackie is here. She's sitting right
Jackie,
over here.
thank you very much. And the impact, thank you for inviting me. And one more thing. Ron Ware, are you in the room? Business manager from Local 395? Is he here? Okay, I want to thank Local 395 and Ron Ware. They have a lot of trust and a lot of confidence in our company. We've worked together for many, many years, and we have a terrific business relationship. And they're part of this AC 470, a big part. Thank you, Ron, and thank you, 395. I hope I can say this fast enough. The keynote speaker is the best speaker I've ever heard, and motivational as well. And if you ask me about AC 478, of course, it's an accreditation, and it's a higher level than a certification, and Sandy would tell you more about it than I would. But when that speaker spoke, what did he say? He said, the first thing he talked about was, he mentioned leadership. He mentioned, what do you call it, as far as your, I can't even think, safety, passion, caring. He mentioned about not having to, failing to plan is planning to fail. And actually, I heard that quote from, I read it, John Wooden, the late John Wooden from UCLA. That was his quote. And he also mentioned elite. That's AC 478 in so many words. That's what AC 478 is. It helps us to plan. It helps with safety. It helps with productivity. And you can go on and on and on. It helps with caring and a checklist as well. So it is a big process. I want to add that, we get trained people from the apprenticeship program, really good journey workers, really good foremen, really good general foremen. You're well trained. But we as contractors, what do? We call, we get a few guys, we send them out on the job, and we tell them, you're responsible for the productivity, you're responsible for the safety. You guys plan the job. What the heck do us contractors know? I'm not an iron worker. But you know what? AC 478 makes us accountable and responsible as contractors. That's the missing link. We need to be accountable for what we do. We're a team with the iron workers. When I go visit a customer now and he asks me, what differentiates you from the competition? AC 478. Nobody can beat it. We're going to take that. We're the elite, and we're going to use it. Thanks.
Thank you, Steve. We have a breakout tomorrow at 1:30. These four guests, and we'll have a couple others. If anybody want to learn more about metal buildings, please join us then. Thank you again.